Welcome to the Habits and Hustle podcast, a podcast that uncovers the rituals, unspoken habits, and mindsets of extraordinary people. A podcast powered by Habit Nest. Now here's your host, Jennifer Cohen.
All right, so on Habits and Hustle, we have Max Lugavere, who, by the way, I am a big fan of because I think you're so smart, and I loved your first book. So he wrote Genius Foods, which was a New York Times bestseller, and now his new book that is coming out, I guess, since we're going to be doing now, let's say.
Right now.
Right now, Genius Life is our guest today. So welcome.
Thanks for having me. This is cool. It's the first interview I've ever given while on a treadmill, so already I'm having a good time.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear it. First of all, you should be a big fan because in your first book, you talked about how when people are moving and talking, they end up remembering things better, and it's great for your cognitive functioning, but you can talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, exercise activates your prefrontal cortex, which is basically the hub of self-awareness, of executive function. And executive function is this broad sort of cognitive domain, but it includes being able to take in, stimuli, manipulate ideas, respond, and also maybe even remember things better. There was a study where I think it was done in China, where they were teaching students English, and they put them on these bicycles, these aerobic bicycles, while they were learning, and they found that the people who were on bicycles while they received their English lesson were able to retain a lot more, a significant amount, significantly more than the controls that were just seated in desks.
Right.
That makes sense, because when you're moving, I'm getting fresh blood up to my brain, carrying nutrients and fuel and oxygen and things like that. So it stands to reason that the brain would work better when we're actually moving than it does when we're just sedentary. And what we know now is that being sedentary for an extended period of time drains blood from the brain. So this is cool. I'm
glad that you like it.
This might be my best interview yet because I'm actually active while I'm giving it.
I love that. And it's exactly, you kill two birds with one stone because you're going to burn a lot of calories and you're doing something good for your body as you are also doing something for your mind, right?
Exactly.
And it's interesting because I think you said in your book that, weren't you doing kettlebell swings in between? I remember that. It was you and the doctor guy that you were writing the book with.
Yeah.
You would do kettlebell swings and then he would do it and you guys would change off.
We were taking turns,
that.
yeah. As we were writing the chapters, we would take turns doing kettlebell swings, and that was my first time ever really doing kettlebell stuff. I'm not a CrossFitter. He was. Dr. Paul Graywall, who's my co-author in Genius Foods, he was a big CrossFitter, and so he was teaching me how to do all these hip hinges and swings and things like that. So yeah, it was cool. It definitely, I think the fact that I was so active while writing the book is one of the reasons why the book is as good as I think it is.
It's so good.
Thank you.
And I don't say that to most people come on the show. In fact, most of the time I don't say anything. But the first book, you had such amazing pieces, nuggets of information that weren't stale. A lot of times people come up with a health book and want whatever, and it's yeah, I've seen that, I've heard that repackaged a zillion times. But you talked so much about brain health and other things that I actually genuinely really liked it, and so I was actually kind of a fan of yours. I'm not, you know what I mean, as much as I can be I follow you, I listen to what you say. So awesome. And you're and you're smart. You really are. People will tell in the next little while, things just spew out of your brain, and I'm how does he says it so nonchalantly, lutein or whatever you're going to start talking about pretty soon.
I think it's because I'm I definitely have very nerdy tendencies. I may wear the suave exterior of of an Angelino. I don't actually think so, but deep down I'm a nerd, and I'm particularly nerdy about this very narrow range of topics, and health and nutrition and exercise is one of those topics. If you ask me about politics, I don't know anything about politics. If you ask me about sports or world history, I go deep on just a handful of topics, and then we were talking before we got rolling. Our mutual friend Mind Pump Sal.
Yeah, I love him.
Yeah, yes. Shout out to Sal. He's got such a breadth of knowledge, and I feel he goes deep on a broad number of topics. For me, I'm really only interested in a handful of things.
What are the things that you're interested in? Brain health? I know brain health.
Super interested in brain health, dementia, risk mitigation, nutrition, body composition, metabolic health. I'm just interested in health, and it comes from a place that is, I think, simultaneously altruistic. Like I want to help people reach their healthier selves, because at this point I'm very aware of the statistics in this country, of the fact that, you know, so many people are struggling with problems related to weight, age-related chronic disease, things like that. But it also kind of there's a narcissistic angle as well, where I just don't want to succumb to the ravages of aging. I've seen what aging does, especially when it's accelerated, you know, which I think is what I got to witness in my mom. My mom was very sick from a young age, and so I don't want that to ever happen to myself. So where, you know, it's just that become so interested and so fixated on these topics because they're relevant to me in my life and how I feel and how I look and how I perform, and, you know, I don't think there's anything more important, actually.
Right. I mean, I remember when I first got introduced to you, which of course you don't remember, but I do, 2 years ago or so, for your first book. It was really about, you were really dealing with Alzheimer's and brain because of your mom. And I'm sorry, I heard that she passed, so I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And when did she even get Alzheimer's? How old was she? She was very young, you said.
Yeah, my mom was 58 when she was first diagnosed.
So young.
Yeah, super young. She, beautiful, spirited woman, and she started to show these very strange symptoms. And honestly, at first, because there was no precedent for what she had in my family, we had no family history of any kind of neurodegenerative disease, me and my brothers would actually like kind of poke fun at my mom, you know, for what she was experiencing, because we just couldn't believe that there could be something other than, you know, we thought she was acting, essentially. Like my mom, you know, my mom was a quirky, you know, personality, a big personality. We thought that she was just kind of maybe attention seeking with it all. Like we were so callous, and it's something that I regret, but, you know, I don't blame me or my brothers, because again, there was no precedent. We were just so completely ignorant, and it took going to the Cleveland Clinic in Cleveland, Ohio. I went with my mom, and it was there for the first time that she was diagnosed with a neurodegenerative condition. And at that point, it wasn't clear what it was that she had, but she was prescribed drugs for both Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's disease. And so that began this 7-year journey, and you know, it was just horrible watching her decline. And some days were better than others, of course, but she was very handicapped by the end of it. It really took the life out of her, even before she passed away. And it was awful. And I love my mom more than anything. And so, you know, my hope is that somehow with my work, what I've been able to do is going to help inspire other people to take steps that are going to minimize their risk, prevent dementia altogether, maybe minimize their risk, maybe whatever language you choose to use. I think, you know, we're at an interesting point now where we don't have to sit idly on our hands as we await whatever's in our genetic hand of cards. And, you know, if anything, what my mom had proved to me that genes are not everything, because again, we had no precedent in the family tree. My mom's mom, actually, my maternal grandmother, lived to 96.
Oh my.
And was cognitively sharp until the end. I mean, she had a few of the foibles that I think we associate with just aging more generally, but she was sharp. And it was this weird thing where she was living in my mom's house because physically she had become decrepit, but she was sharper than my mom, who was succumbing to dementia. Right. It was super strange, because we all think of dementia as being an old person's disease. Right,
that's exactly it.
It was just so, yeah, it was awful.
I figured that was kind of like, how did you kind of get on this path? Because weren't you doing you had a documentary, but I don't know what it was about. What was the documentary about?
So I was pre-med in college, but then I ended up halfway through college realizing a love of storytelling and creativity. And then I ended up switching out of the pre-med track to double major in film and psychology. And when I chose to major in film, it was really documentary filmmaking that was my focus, to tell real stories. Right. And to like be able to investigate whatever it was. I mean, back in college, I was into a number of different things, but.
What college did you go to?
University of Miami.
Okay. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I would never take you for that. I don't know. I thought you'd be like more of a.
Like Northeast?
I was going to say, I thought NYU, Columbia.
NYU. No, to be honest, I probably wouldn't have gotten into those
Dartmouth.
schools. Yeah, Duke. I would not. No, I wouldn't have. Because you know what? My grades were not great in high school. As I mentioned, when I'm into something, I go deep.
So deep, yeah.
Yeah, but if I'm not into something, my brain is like a light switch. It's either like fully immersed and fixated and even obsessed, or not interested at all.
Yeah.
And so it was always very difficult for me to kind of fit my brain into the constraints of like the one-size-fits-all education system. So my grades suffered, even though, I mean, teachers always really liked me because I was always very curious. I was not a good student. So I probably wouldn't have gotten into those schools. I ended up getting into University of Miami, and I went there, and I graduated with a double major in film and psychology, and after I graduated from college, I got an amazing job working for Al Gore, and he hired me to become the face of his TV network, which was called Current TV, and it was like a news and information network for young people. So from day one, I forget
that. That's like a big one.
It was a big one.
It wasn't some like small little. It's Current TV. That was what it was, right?
Yeah. So I mean, from day one, my career has been about informing people, like informing big audiences, and the network reached 100 million homes. It was like not something that, like, the ratings weren't very high, but nonetheless, every single day I had to show up. I was on camera and I was talking about issues that were both small and big, and I learned how to communicate delicate topics and how important language is. And so I did that, and then 6 years of doing that, I decided to leave. And around that time is when my mom got sick, and I didn't have a platform because I was no longer at the TV network. And so what I decided to do was to create a documentary, a movie, where I could basically go around the world interviewing researchers who were really ushering in this idea of dementia as a potentially preventable condition. And I started reaching out to scientists and visiting their labs, and we did this amazing Kickstarter campaign, and got the film funded initially, and that was really kind of like the beginning of what would ultimately turn into what it's turned into. Like the documentary was the first project, and I saw that there was a need for this kind of information. So the documentary, I'm actually still working on the documentary, but ironically, doing a documentary is a lot more difficult than even writing a book, because you can write a book in isolation. You can write a book like sitting at your desk by yourself. A documentary requires a lot of money and a lot of moving pieces and a lot of personnel, and we're still in the fundraising process for the movie. So
really,
yeah.
It's funny that you just said that, because I was at a thing last night, an event, and I met this guy he just did the Hillary Clinton documentary, and it was at Sundance. And they got a lot of money for it, but even with something of that caliber, having her name, having everything, the moving pieces, it took forever, he said. And this is from a lot of people some people who are Oscar-winning documentarians say the same thing. It's like, it's the hardest part, it's the hardest piece of like any kind of like movie, film type of like entertainment business is documentaries.
Well, because the problem is most documentaries don't make any money.
Yeah, they make no
money. So there's no reason for investors really to ever want to get involved. I mean, I've had countless meetings with investors or donors, and I'm like, what I offer is like, you can be a part of this film, which is the first of its kind. It's a documentary about dementia prevention. It has the potential to do a lot of good for a lot of people. It's not it's not doom and gloom. It's not, being told or being directed by some stodgy old, filmmaker. It's got this cool kind of like Vice-like vibe to it, but still, it's like, this is show business after all, right? It's like, it's not show fun, it's show business, and so.
But you can show that. You can try to sell that. Like, you have enough, it sounds like, to go to Netflix, Apple, wherever.
We've had meetings, and the meetings with those companies, they're all very positive, but nobody has yet like pulled the trigger and brought in the film. So going the private route, or just, I don't know, I might do an event at some point, and use a portion of the proceeds to help fund the documentary. I might do another Kickstarter campaign. I don't yet know, but
how much do you need?
We probably need another $100,000 to do it, which seems like a lot of money for your average person, but in terms of movie making, it's actually a very small amount of money.
Would you ever think of like funding it yourself, or?
I could. I mean, like, it's still a lot of money to. And
I know it's a lot of money just to put up on your own,
and it's also not a good. It's not a good habit to get into, because I think if you're not able to convince, I don't know. I mean, I think funding a film yourself, it's always tricky. It's always tricky to invest in your own projects, no matter what it is. Mm-hmm. But especially with a creative project, what I've heard from other people who've done documentaries is that you generally don't want to put your own money up, because being able to convince somebody to invest in the project is a litmus test as to the validity of the work, of the creative
project.
Merit of the project. And so I don't know. I mean, I'm not taking anything off the table. I do want to get it done. We do have a rough cut. So everything that we've raised so far, we have been able to achieve a rough cut of the documentary. And it really is an homage to both the science and my mother, who of course passed away. And so, it's everything to me to get the film out. And I just, we haven't yet figured it out, but it's still in production and we're still
You're still working on it.
Yeah, still working on it, yeah.
So from the first book, we'll get to the second book, but what are some like good takeaways? You think the most important takeaways would be from the first book about having that people can implement for brain health, so they don't have that can help them or assist them in brain health, basically.
Yeah, I mean, the first book really was all about the foods that are going to give your brain the nutrients that it requires to basically protect itself as it ages, and also to help it create healthy new brain cells, stay plastic, this property known as neuroplasticity, I think is something that I talk a lot about in the first book.
You do.
The first book is also, it's a nutritional care manual to the brain, and it goes deep into dementia prevention. It goes deep it really is like kind of a love letter to the science of dementia prevention. And also nutritional psychiatry, which is this sort of growing field looking at how food affects mood and things like that.
You're talking about like how people who are on antidepressants, it can be a diet, if they tweaked or changed their diet, it can really change their brain chemistry or their neuroplasticity.
Yeah, I mean, we know at this point that certain micronutrients are involved in optimal brain function. And that when you're deficient in certain micronutrients, that your brain function suffers, your mood can suffer. Vitamin B12 is just one example, but vitamin D we know is involved in the synthesis of serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter involved in mood. And think of how many people are on selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, right? To boost serotonin basically at the synapse. You look at the population statistics, and a huge number of people, I think it's anywhere between 50% and 75% of people are deficient in vitamin D.
Right. Even people who live in LA or in California, they think that it's sunny, that they're getting enough.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. I talk a lot about vitamin D actually in the new book.
In the new book too, I know, I was going to say.
It's super important. I mean, it acts like a hormone in the body. And
how much do you take a day? 5,000?
I mean, I take 5,000. I take 5,000 international units a day. Sometimes I don't. If I'm spending time in the sun, I won't take it. Because the thing about supplementation is that it is possible to take too much,
right.
And when you're getting vitamin D from the sun, the sun performs all these other important functions. It anchors your body's circadian rhythm.
Which is a big part of your
big part of the new book.
Yeah.
It's like the UVA rays from the sun create nitric oxide, so really good for boosting blood flow, facilitating healthy blood pressure. But yeah, so like when you get the UVB rays from the sun on your skin creates as much vitamin D as you need, and then it degrades the rest. So it's not like you don't really have the risk of over supplementing.
I was going to say, what happens if someone takes too much vitamin D? Is there any type of side effects that are? Well,
it just boosts calcium absorption in the gut, and you can develop what's called hypercalcemia, which is like just too much calcium in the blood, which. I was actually interviewing this medical doctor, this cardiologist, Thomas Levy, and he was saying that excess calcium actually acts like a pro-oxidant. You want to keep it within this very narrow range, and there's actually also studies that show that women who supplement with calcium have an increased risk for heart disease. So that's dangerous then for people. Too much calcium. Yeah, you don't want too much calcium.
No, but people who take too much vitamin D, that can be.
Yeah, you don't want too much vitamin D. So the range that there's no universally accepted optimal range for vitamin D, but the most recent studies that I've looked at seem to suggest that the lowest risk of all-cause mortality occurs at a vitamin D range of between 40 and 60 nanograms per milliliter. So you can easily get that test in your doctor's office. It's a very cheap test. I believe insurance covers it. And you should be anywhere between 40 and 60 nanograms. So in the middle of that would actually probably be ideal from a brain health standpoint. So about 50.
I was going to ask you because I heard that you need, and this could be just not, it could be wrong, that you need K2, vitamin K2, with vitamin D for it to absorb. Is that correct or not?
Not for it to absorb, but K2, what it does is it basically guides calcium deposition in the body.
Oh, okay.
So calcium, right? So we want, calcium's important.
Right.
We need it. We need it in our bones and in our teeth, but it can also deposit itself in our soft tissue, in our arteries, in our skin. So vitamin K2, what vitamin K2 is supposed to do is it basically keeps calcium where we want it, and it keeps it out of places that we don't want it. So the more, I mean, if you're in optimal vitamin D status, you probably want to make sure that you're getting vitamin K2 as well. And we know that K2 is found naturally in other very healthy foods.
Right.
So like grass-fed butter, this Japanese dish called natto. You can find it in grass-fed beef. We actually make vitamin K2, like the bacteria in our guts make it to some degree. So yeah, there was a really great book on vitamin K2 that I read. I was just enthralled by it.
You read a whole book on vitamin
K2.
Oh wow,
yeah.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Why am I not surprised? Okay.
Yeah. It's by a woman named Kate Room Blue. I don't know how to pronounce her, she's got 2 last names, but it's called The Calcium Paradox.
Okay. And she writes all about this.
The whole book is about vitamin K2.
And you read the whole book, and you retained it.
Yeah, I mean,
God bless you, Max.
Yeah, I don't think, not all of it, but a lot of it, yeah, I was just very interested. It's a cool book.
So so what do you take, in your day-to-day life? Because I mean, now you have so much knowledge, and you retain all the knowledge. I read a lot, and then 99% of it just dissipates. I have no idea what I even read or remember. So, of all this stuff, aren't you confused? What do you do every day?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, for me, it's weird. It's easy for me to remember this stuff because I'm interested in it. But there are other things that I read that I'm you described the way that the way I retain information about
Lutein, gluten, whatever. I mean, I just remember you always saying that word.
Lutein.
Okay, what is lutein? But what is it?
It's a carotenoid, so it's
Oh yeah, carotenoid. Yes.
Yeah, it's a plant pigment.
Okay.
You also find it in egg yolks. You find it in the fat of grass-fed beef. Really good for eye health. Really good for brain health.
Okay. Right. That's right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just about this health stuff. I retain it. But I'm not like that with any other thing. With music, I'm kind of like that,
Okay.
With media, with movies, I'm a bit of a cinephile. But
What's healthy? It just naturally spews off your tongue. That's it. So then what? Okay, so vitamin D. So what do you do? I mean, I know you talk about your morning routine. What people should be doing in the morning when they wake up.
Yeah.
What do you?
My morning routine. I wake up. In the best case scenario, I wake up, I do some stretching, I go outside on my terrace.
What time do you wake up?
It depends. I can be a night owl, so if I go to bed late, I have no problem waking up at 9, which is
I'm just going.
I mean, I know some people that are if they wake up any later than 6 p.m., they're the whole day's gone. I prefer waking up early, but I don't always wake up early.
Yeah, okay.
So if I wake up at
what time do you go to bed?
I can go to bed. I mean, I can go to bed at midnight. I can go to bed at 1. Generally, midnight is these days. 11 p.m. to midnight is generally these days when I'm going to bed. Yeah.
All right, but that's similar to me.
Yeah.
Although I see you at a lot of things, but many times it's going to I saw you at the Goop event.
I was there briefly.
Yeah, and then I see you at Aero One
all the
lot.
time.
Yeah, from a distance, I'm like, oh my god, there he is again. If I'm there, I know I'm going to see you.
Pretty much.
Do you have stock in that place?
I wish.
I know.
Up. Yeah, frick.
It's crazy. Do you buy everything, even your toilet paper there? Because you're there.
No,
always.
Well, that's the big secret, is that buying groceries at Aero One is a total rookie move. Nobody buys groceries.
Nobody buys. I mean, if you're smart, you would.
If you're balling out of control, maybe you buy groceries at Aero One. But for my groceries, generally I'll go to Whole Foods. Even Aero One makes Whole Foods look like a bargain bin.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's a joke. I mean, Whole Foods looks like Albertsons compared to
1,000%. I love the produce at Whole Foods. And then I'll also, for some stuff, I'll go to Trader Joe's. But generally, it's Whole Foods at this point is where I do most of my shopping.
See, I can't. You'd buy toilet paper at Whole Foods. That's also a rookie move.
Buy toilet
you should go to Costco or Target or
That's generally That's where I buy that kind of stuff. Or
when you're not at Aero One.
Trader Joe's. Yeah, I wouldn't buy paper towels or toilet paper at At Whole Foods, yeah. I'll use like a Costco. Actually, I do have, my brother works for a company called Boxed. So Boxed is sort of like an online Costco sort of thing. And so, yeah, if you really want to know where I get my toilet paper from, I get it from Boxed, and I also get my paper towels from there too.
And did you basically have like a tent set up at Era One in the back? You just kind of come out sometimes. And
air mattress, yeah.
Okay, air mattress. Okay, and it's without fail. Like, and the one, and I don't go to the one down there. It's like on in West Hollywood, right? Very, very often.
Yeah.
But the 4 or 5 times I've been there, I kid you not.
I'm there.
You were there.
Yeah. Well, I go there because, I go there for 2 reasons. I go there for
the hot girls. I know why. Come on.
Okay, 3 reasons.
Yeah.
So I go there for one, because the Hot Foods bar there's not a lot of, you won't find a lot of like canola oil or grapeseed oil or any of that crap that you'll see at the Whole Foods hot bar.
Right.
So the Whole Foods hot bar I generally will not eat because it's all canola oil. Like, it's really not, not the best quality stuff. At Erewhon, and I hate to give them such a big shout out, but like, the beef will be grass fed, the chicken will be organic, you won't find any canola oil. They have some unhealthy stuff too, of course, but generally, like, it tastes really good and it's good for you. I feel great. It's portion controlled.
Right.
If you leave me alone at the freaking Whole Foods bar, like, I have no sense of, like, I'll just like load it up and I'll end up walking out with 3 pounds of food. At Erewhon, they like warn you if it's over a pound because they know that you're going to be paying $50 for it. So
easily. Like I've never seen a grocery store that expensive probably in my entire life.
Yes,
never will.
It's ridiculous.
They were selling like pomegranates that are peeled.
Seeded, yeah.
It was in a little bowl. It was $30. I thought I was seeing things. I even asked the guy, I'm like, is this properly? Is this not?
It's ridiculous. I don't buy groceries there. I just buy the Hot Foods bar, and for that, I think it's a value. It's like honestly $17, $18. Which is a lot for some people for a meal, but for me, it's like I don't have to think about it, and it tastes good. And so the second reason why I love it, there's like a sense of community there. LA can feel kind of isolating sometimes, and I go there and I bump into people I know. Like if I saw you, I would say, "Hey, what's up, Jen?"
Right.
So that's cool.
I see you from a distance. I'm like, he doesn't know who I am. I'm not going to bother him.
And then the third thing is that there's a lot of attractive people that shop there, and I'm a single guy, and
I've seen you actually with different girls.
Really?
I mean, I don't know, like maybe just friends or whatever, but like that's probably the reason why I don't even bother you. Like I think, he's on a date. I don't want to bother him.
Not on a date, but
or like whatever. You're in the middle of talking to somebody. I'm not going to be like, hey, remember me from 2 years ago? Yeah. So I just leave you alone.
If anything, it's only going to like boost my stock.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's true. Okay, I'll remember that next time I see you. It'll probably happen soon. So you don't cook then? You're not a.
No, I do cook. I love to cook, but I don't like to cook by myself.
Yeah.
I just feel like lonely when I cook by myself and I eat it by myself. It's just not as fun. So I'd rather. I cook with my brothers sometimes. So my brothers now live in LA. And my dad,
do?
Yeah, everybody moved. So what remains of my family is now in LA. So we cook sometimes, and so that's really great. But when I'm by myself, no, I usually I'll go out and I'll go to Erewhon, I'll go to wherever, Bel Campo. I love Bel Campo.
Yes, very good.
High quality meats.
Very high quality meat. So, okay, let's get back to your morning routine. So you wake up, maybe 9, maybe not, and what happens?
I go usually I'll drink some water. I go over to my reverse osmosis water purifier and I drink some water with some trace minerals in it. Hydrate.
Trace minerals, like where? Like
I just buy them on Amazon. No affiliation with any company. It comes in a little bottle because a reverse osmosis water purifier removes everything. It removes heavy metals,
right? But
it also removes the minerals that we know that are good for us,
right,
in water. So I'll then replace them with these like trace minerals, and then sometimes I'll drink some coffee. I'm kind of like I have a love-hate relationship with coffee. Mostly I love it, but sometimes I find myself drinking too much. But right now I'm like back on the coffee thing, so I'll drink some coffee.
A specific kind, or does it have to be organic?
I use my French press. I try to buy organic. Sometimes I will blend it. If I'm not planning on eating anytime soon, like if I wake up really early, if I wake up at 6 a.m. And I drink coffee, I'll blend it sometimes with maybe a little bit of MCT oil, maybe a little bit of grass-fed butter. Yeah, I'm not going to say it's a health food, but maybe it is. I don't know. It definitely tastes really good, and it's satiating. It doesn't I think it slows down the infusion rate of caffeine into the blood, And so I find that because coffee is a little acidic, and that on an empty stomach, if I just drink plain black coffee, sometimes it can it just doesn't necessarily feel that great, and I'm more prone to jitters, like feeling that like, kind of anxiety. If I'm waking up on the later side and I know that I have a meal coming up, then I won't do the whole butter thing, because it's just you shouldn't drink your calories. But if it's like to get me 5 hours to the next meal, then I'll do it.
And do you think? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but do you think that that in the fat in the coffee actually does something for your brain? That it's good for your brain, or is it just a satiation thing? Because for so long, remember that was like a big thing, right? Yeah. And I never understood that. It just seemed like a silly thing for people to do.
There's no scientific evidence on it. Some people, depending on genes, actually it can cause an aberration of your lipids. Like there's been case reports of people adopting this buttery coffee phenomena, and they go and they see like their LDL levels go through the roof. So it's not something that I recommend to people. It's personally, I enjoy it, and it doesn't do anything magical to the brain. You don't need to consume butter for the brain or anything like that. MCT actually does provide ketones to the brain. So I think that there might be some kind of benefit there. The research is a little bit like equivocal, but MCT oil, it gets converted by the liver to ketones, and ketones are a very powerful brain fuel. They also act as like a signaling molecule in the brain, like they boost levels of BDNF, which is this miracle grow protein that promotes neuroplasticity. I think coffee can be good for the brain. I mean, it certainly makes us feel good. There's polyphenols in it. Coffee consumption is related to seemingly better brain health.
Yeah. Well, more mental. You're more like mental edge. You've got a more mental edge, I feel.
Yeah.
But you could do too much, and then you're like withdrawn.
You don't want to do too much. Yeah. You don't want to do too much. The only fats really that I recommend that people adopt in their diets. We know that we need essential fatty acids. So no matter what, making sure they're getting preformed EPA and DHA fat. I'm definitely a fan of getting them from fish or animal-based sources as opposed to plant-based sources. And then aside from that, monounsaturated fat seems to be super healthy. So extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil. I'm not a big advocate of consuming an excessive amount of saturated fat. I just don't think that it's not warranted from like an evidence standpoint. And some people, everybody's different. So I like to kind of, my message really, I try to cater it to what's going to do the most good for the most people, acknowledging that there is no such thing as a one-size-fits-all diet.
And you do intermittent fasting then, or?
Yeah, I try to go 16 hours a day where I'm not eating,
Right. You have an 8-hour window.
Yeah.
That's not terrible.
No, I mean sometimes it'll be 14 hours, sometimes it'll be 12 hours. I don't like obsess over it, but I try not to eat too late at night. And I'm generally not eating as soon as I wake up. Like I'll wait, 1 to 2 to 3 hours after I wake up. I mean, I definitely think that we're meant to eat during the day. And if anything, having an earlier dinner is going to be better for you than having a later breakfast, the meal that breaks your fast. But yeah, generally I'm eating from 11 a.m., maybe noon, to about 8 p.m. And if I wake up at 6 a.m., I'll have like the coffee with a little bit of like butter in it just to like keep me satiated.
And that holds you over.
Yeah, it's just like, you know what it is? It's a comfort thing. It's like grounding. It's, it's something, it's like a nice ritual to have in the morning. Some people like to make their beds. I don't make my bed. And I don't drink it every day. And I also don't, there's nothing magic about it, but I enjoy it some days.
All right. Okay. So then go on with your morning routine. So then you have your coffee or not, and then what?
Try to do some stretching. Try to kind of like enjoy the quietude of the morning. I try to make sure that all my blinds are open so that I'm getting like nice morning light. Right. That's super important. I end up going to my computer, taking care of the emails, the follow-ups and things like that. When my brain is super clear in the morning. So for me, it's like really easy to reply to the emails that I know I need to reply to, or answer interviews, or maybe record an intro to my podcast or something. I'm just feeling like sharp and at my best. I love your podcast. Oh, thank you so much. You're welcome. You're very good. So I thought you go outside though for that daylight.
is it better to go outside
Best case scenario,
if you have
yeah. I try to. I don't have an outdoor space where I currently live, although that's about to change because I'm moving. But like if I had an outdoor space, if I had like a patio, that would be my morning routine. I would like take my laptop and I would go sit outside and just to be in natural light, to get some sun. That's the best. What
do you think of red light therapy?
Well, I was given a unit by Juve, so I've been using it.
So was I.
And
BioLite.
Here's the thing. I don't yet have a fully fleshed out opinion of my own on it. I enjoy using it. I find that it causes, I definitely feel like it feels like laying in the sun. And when I look in the mirror after using it, I definitely feel like a little more vascular. Like I feel like it maybe is boosting nitric oxide, And I also know a lot of smart people who really believe in the technology. And I've listened to a few podcasts with some doctors talking about red light photobiomodulation, and it seems like really cool and really promising. I don't yet, I don't like to jump on bandwagons, and I don't like to talk out of my ass. So, I think that it feels like it's doing something, but I don't know.
No, I got you. I'm kind of like you in the same way. I mean, what I was nervous about, if it replenishes your cells and turns over your cells, I was thinking that wouldn't that cause cancer, right? Because that's what cancer is. It's like it's multiplying your cells really fast, right?
Yeah.
So like, my mom, who's a doctor, is like, don't you dare use that thing, and there's not enough research. But then like there is research that backs it and says that it's not the same type. So I'm like you, I'm confused on that one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
so I do it, but not as much as I think I could do it.
Here's the thing, those wavelengths of light are probably emitted by the sun, and maybe more so at certain times of day than others. And now we spend 93% of our time indoors. So to me, it doesn't really take a huge stretch of the imagination to conceive that this light might be doing something to our biology. Whether it's purely a visual thing or whether or not it's actually activating, mitochondria. I know that there is a good amount of research on it.
Right.
I'm just not super well versed in it, and a lot of the research really has been done for super specific things, and also in animal studies. Like there have been studies where they've put this red light on the testicles of like rats, and they see a boost in testosterone. So you see a lot of guys in the biohacker space who are using these red light, and they're standing there with it on their nuts, and there is like a couple millimeter penetration, that the light is able to go through the skin, and your testes are like in this thin skin, like it doesn't. It seems.
So you're not doing that at home, basically.
Well, I stand in front of it naked because that's what you're supposed to do.
You're supposed to stand in front. Do the big panel, yeah?
Yeah, I've got the big one, yeah.
Yeah, me too. Okay.
But I don't freaking know. I'm just doing it because it feels cool. I got it for free. It's it's like 10 minutes of like meditation while I'm doing it. I don't freaking know.
Do you do 10 minutes this way at front and then 10 minutes back, like 20 altogether?
Yeah. Although, I probably get bored about 15 minutes in and I just give up. But.
I'm just on my phone when I'm doing it. Is that bad? I think it probably is.
It is FDA approved for certain things, though.
For what, though?
Well, I believe...
I thought anti-inflammatory. No, maybe is it the anti-inflammatory?
Here's the thing. I mean, if it's FDA approved for something, that means that it's doing something.
Doing something.
Right. So, I don't know. There's just not a ton of, I think, research like in people or high-quality research in people, but... absence of evidence is not evidence of absence.
Right.
So I remain open-minded.
How often do you do it?
They don't pay me anything either.
No, I know. I know. Nor does mine. I'm just listen. I'm not saying. I just don't know. It's just like not that I cannot say something. Like I haven't. People say it helps with like fine lines and wrinkles. People say it helps with inflammatory. People say all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And then there's research that says some things, but it's. I thought you being the health. Genius that you are.
That's the thing. I don't really talk about the things that I don't know about, which I think is why my followers like appreciate me, because it's like I can talk about what I know about, but then I'm not like, I don't just kind of like...
You don't just blab for the sake of blabbing.
Yeah, there's a lot of people, and there's other people that I think, there's other people out there that are, I think, a little bit more liberal in terms of their adoption of these more innovative health things. But for me, I feel like most people are going to get a lot more bang for their buck with sort of the low-hanging fruit, you know?
Right.
For me, yeah, I mean, I exercise a lot, I eat pretty healthy, so for me, you know, I'm the kind of person who would benefit from red light if it's doing anything, you know?
Right.
But if you're one of the, I don't know, I mean, people today are just, you know, 12% of people are in what researchers would call good metabolic health, you know? So there's like a lot of bigger fish that need to be fried. But that being said, you know, from the standpoint of just like light and health and circadian rhythms, I mean, it would make sense that light would have some kind of, you know, value on our cells.
So you just mentioned metabolic health. So what are some ways that how do we know if we are in good metabolic health?
I mean, labs really are, you know, like, there are some subjective ways that you can get a sense if you're always hungry. You know, if you have a bulging midsection, that's a pretty good indicator that that something needs to be, you know, looked at. Because having a bulging midsection, especially if you have that apple-shaped body where you're essentially skinny fat and you've got a lot of visceral fat, that's a good indicator that you're in poor metabolic health. In fact, that's what researchers use. That's one of the metrics that a clinician will use to assess your metabolic status. You know, like having a bulging midsection is a sign of the metabolic syndrome. So, but other than that, you can go get labs. You can look at your HDL cholesterol, LDL, triglycerides, your insulin levels, your glucose levels, your A1C, which is a measure of your 3-month fasting, your 3-month average blood sugar levels. And so these are all kind of related, you know, and they're all signs of how your body is processing energy, metabolizing energy, responding to various hormonal inputs and things like that.
Now, isn't your circadian rhythm kind of directly linked to your metabolic health? Isn't it if you're doing something your routine daily where you wake up at the same time and when you go to bed similar at the same time and do things that helps with your...
Absolutely,
right.
Yeah, having a routine and sticking to it. Making sure that you're eating in the daytime, you're not eating too late at night, you're eating your carbohydrates primarily in the daytime, or in the post-workout setting, because we happen to be more insulin sensitive in the day. So that's one way in which, you know, our circadian rhythms affect metabolism. We're better at metabolizing carbohydrates,
right,
and just energy in general in the daytime.
But you talk about that a lot in your book, though. I feel like that's like a pattern about your circadian rhythm.
Yeah.
So what else is it about? Like, give me some more information about it.
Well, making sure that you're getting good quality light in through your eyes in the daytime, that affects your metabolism. Because what a lot of people, when they wake up, especially if they wake up due to an alarm clock, like if they wake up unnaturally early, there's a good chance that their melatonin levels have not fully subsided, right? Like melatonin is a sleep hormone. And it actually makes us less insulin sensitive because it's you know, winding us down for the night. It's getting us prepared for sleep. You know, sleep is not a time in which we're metabolizing a whole bunch of energy. So so melatonin is a great hormone, but if it hasn't fully subsided in the morning and then you go and you reach for the standard American breakfast, which is like orange juice and a bran muffin, you're going to be less insulin sensitive at that point in the morning. So what light does is it basically suppresses melatonin production. So it's a great way to just make sure that your body is primed for the day.
Right.
It's also a great way to activate your brain, your prefrontal cortex, boosts mood, and things like that. So
does it matter if it's cloudy outside? Like you're saying, to get sunlight, right? What happens if you're in a place that's super cloudy, bad weather? Like I'm Canadian,
Good question. Yeah.
Terrible.
It can be totally cloudy and overcast. Still the light that you're getting. Yeah, it really has to be the measure of light intensity. It's lux. You need about 1,000 lux of light to tell your brain that it's daytime. And so you can easily achieve that on an overcast day. Just go outside or stand by your window. Or if you're driving to work, make sure that you've got your sunglasses off.
Sunglasses off.
Yeah, because you don't want to block the light during that point. Well, I mean, if you've got a super tinted, car, like you're not basically seizing that opportunity to anchor your body's circadian rhythm, which we know is, it's involved in energy, metabolism, focus, attention. It also affects the time during which we get sleepy at night. So bright light in the morning can it affects when melatonin starts to be secreted in the evening. So bright light can actually can cause us to secrete melatonin earlier, which is, it'll help you get to bed earlier. It also can help protect you against blue light induced melatonin suppression. So that's another thing that I talk about in the new book, is that maintaining our circadian rhythm has become one of the major challenges of modern life, because we're just inundated with bright artificial light all the time. But by But by getting bright light during the day, like from the sun, you kind of are helping. You're basically protecting your brain, from getting like desynced due to artificial light, which is a great thing, because we all, are prone to binge watching our favorite shows on Netflix and using our devices. So it's a great tip, I think.
And so how about exercise? Is that part of it? Like if you exercise at the same time, does it matter? Or you're kind of like, it doesn't matter when you exercise? What's your take?
Well, it's funny because there's definitely circadian influence to when we're going to be at our most coordinated, when we're going to be at our strongest. But at the end of the day, the time at which you're able to get to the gym that's the best time. Like exercise, just being able to exercise trumps. It's splitting hairs, to borrow a term from our friend Mind Pump Sal.
Yes.
Splitting hairs to try to optimize the time of day, that you work out. You could say that mid-afternoon, we're stronger, we're at our most coordinated, so it's going to reduce risk of injury, perhaps. But
when do you work out?
I like to work out in the mornings.
Me too.
I actually like to work out when I'm fasted, because I feel that I have more energy, because I'm not dealing with post-meal fatigue.
Right.
I find that like after I eat, it's not, my energy levels are not always predictable. I mean, certainly I could eat a lower carb diet, which is gonna reduce, any blood sugar excursions that are gonna like mess up my energy levels. But generally I know that that my energy levels are very consistent when I'm fasted in the morning. You've got this hormonal milieu that wants food, so it's going to energize you. The same with your neurotransmitters. Like your neurotransmitters are oriented in a way to like make sure that you're primed to hunt for or forage for food. So I feel very energetic in the morning. I don't feel like weighed down. I'm not digesting anything, so the blood is like free to go to my muscles and like, yeah. But if you don't like to work out in the morning, you don't have to work out in the morning. If you feel great working out in the afternoon, then work out in the afternoon.
So for you, okay, I kept on interrupting you. So basically, then you have your breakfast, but you didn't tell me what you had for breakfast. Your breakfast, we don't know, and then and your exercise routine. We still haven't gotten into that.
So breakfast, well, I'll work out fasted usually, and then I'll go immediately afterwards to break my fast. Because, when it comes to protein, you really don't need to worry about protein timing, with the exception of the fasted workout. With a fasted workout, if you're working out first thing in the morning, you really want to like make sure that very soon after that morning workout, you're going to get like high protein. If you had eaten a few hours earlier or just before, it's less of a concern. But if you're going into your workout fasted, like you've just had an overnight fast, then you really want to make sure that you're getting, a decent amount of protein afterwards. So usually how I'll break the fast is I'll get like a big plate of, half of it is going to be some kind of meat and the other half is going to be some kind of vegetable. And
that's what I saw in your book. So you're eating like actual meats in the middle, like chicken or beef in the morning.
Protein. I love,
You don't care if it's like morning, night. It's like, that doesn't matter
always,
to you.
Always I'm prioritizing protein. Okay. So chicken or grass-fed beef or fish or whatever. And then always some fibrous veggies. I happen to love like a big salad, like kale salad or whatever. And then depending on like the level of intensity of my workouts and where I am in my workout, I'll have, some sweet potatoes or generally.
This is your first meal? This is your first meal?
Yeah, first meal.
Okay. So is your first meal your biggest meal, or that's?
Yeah, I mean, I just eat until I'm satiated. That's it. Like I don't, I eat so that I don't have to snack, to hold myself over until dinner. Like I like to like eat a big meal, feel satiated, not have to think about it. And then I know that around 6 p.m., 6:30 p.m., I'll be eating like another big dinner,
Right, because you don't eat the breakfast, right?
Right.
You have this 2 meals.
Yeah. Generally 2 meals, and occasionally I'll like snack, but I try not to snack, but I will. If I'm working from home, and there's dark chocolate around.
It's so hard not to.
Yeah, I'll be hitting the dark chocolate for sure. Maybe some beef jerky. I'm a big fan of like
Yes.
low sugar beef jerkies.
Which one? Low sugar ones. Low sodium ones? Do you know of any? Because I've never seen one yet.
Yeah, no low sodium. There, like some biltongs are pretty good. There's a product that I really love, and no affiliation with the company, but they're called Beef Thins. But I think it's like New Primal. They're like maybe one of the best beef jerkies I've ever had.
Really?
They're like crispy beef jerky thins, beef thins.
Where do you buy them? At Era One?
They don't sell them at Erewhon. Yeah, they sell them at Whole Foods.
At Whole Foods? Okay, I like that. I'm going to try those ones.
Very overpriced.
Shocking.
Shockingly, it's like, no, I know exactly because I buy them all the time. It's
How
like
much is it?
$5 for an ounce of this stuff, which is insane.
That's so expensive.
So expensive. Yeah, so expensive. Actually, most of the time I don't even buy them at Whole Foods. I buy them on Amazon because you can find discounts.
Yeah. What's it called? I'm gonna
Beef Thins. Yeah, check
beef.
them out.
Just Beef Thins.
Beef Thins. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna totally check that out. Okay.
They're addicting. Yeah, they're tasty. I mean, I always eat like 2 bags.
That's. God, I know. How do you only eat like
2
1
ounces.
ounce of that? That's like nothing.
It's like nothing. Yeah, it's 1 ounce per bag. So I'll usually eat like 2 bags. So it's 2 ounces. 26 grams of protein.
And you said what beef? Is it called Beef Thins?
Yeah, that's what they're called.
All right.
They're good.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go look at it. Okay, so where was I now? I was talking about your work.
Routine.
Oh yeah, what's your workout routine? What do you do?
I'm definitely like I love lifting weights, but I have like low back issues, so it prevents me from doing. Like some days I go in and I have a great workout. I'm feeling very limber and mobile.
Where do you work out? Equinox?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which one? We're
West Hollywood.
yeah, West Hollywood.
West Hollywood.
I don't see you there. That's.
Do
I
you
don't.
go
I
there?
don't go to that one. That's fine. No. I go to the other Equinox.
Which one?
I go to West LA, or I work out at my house, or I go to Westwood.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I go there. I'm in the process of moving, and my plan is to get like some workout equipment for my house. But
Yeah. It's so much easier. I feel like when I go to the gym, it takes up so much time to get there. You start socializing, even though you don't mean to. It takes like a huge chunk of time. Versus,
I love it though because it gets me out of the house. I feel social. There's like other things there. Sometimes I have great workouts. Sometimes I have really crappy workouts. But at the end of the day, like just something's better than nothing.
Yeah, absolutely true. Exactly. Okay, so then, what are some of the other habits and rituals you do?
Other habits, rituals I do. Well, I'm a big fan of saunas. Like whenever I get the opportunity to use a sauna, I'm in it.
Yeah. Like an infrared sauna or just.
I'm actually not as big of a fan of infrared saunas. I know infrared saunas are all the rage,
Yeah.
but.
There's so many all the rages all the time.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of infrared saunas. So the International Sauna Association actually doesn't even consider an infrared sauna an actual sauna. They're like,
Really?
stop using the word sauna. Because it doesn't
It's
meet
not a sauna.
It's not, sauna is a Finnish thing. It's a Finnish phenomenon, right?
Yeah.
It's a Finnish word. And so the infrared sauna, it's a new technology. I mean, they get you to sweat. They're good for you in that sense. But they take too long. I just don't have the patience. I don't like sitting in a freaking sauna for 45 minutes. If you go into a regular Russian or Finnish hot sauna, you can only be in it for 20 minutes and you're gushing sweat. Beyond.
Yeah.
And you're in and out. And so that's what I love.
Okay, like that. Okay,
Yeah.
where do you go for that?
Really, there's no good places in LA to do that. So I'm in the process of actually getting a sauna for my house, which I hope I can make happen. But
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
How about a dry?
Like a real one.
Like a dry sauna.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are great.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
So like a barrel sauna. That's what I want. That's what I'm trying to get for the roof of my new place. I'm moving to Santa Monica, so.
You are?
Yeah, so I have a roof.
I'm surprised that you don't even live there already. I picture you as a Santa Monica, Venice.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't know how I feel about that because I know a lot of guys that are like the Venice type, and I don't feel like I necessarily fit the mold. No.
Really? Why do you think that?
They seem to be all like a little too in touch with their like feminine
Side?
something. I don't know. Like I feel like I'm a New Yorker. I like West Hollywood. I'd like to bring a little bit of that kind of like masculinity maybe to like that side.
Well, it needs you there. It needs you there.
My experience in Venice is that, okay, so you go to Erewhon, all the guys are wearing these like Native American appropriated like freaking shawls, right? They've all done like one too many plant medicine journeys, right?
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
And I just feel like it's a little disconnected. It's kind of like it's a uniform that just reminds me of like the hipster uniform of like Williamsburg, Brooklyn, or
Yeah,
sort of
I totally
it's just
agree.
another freaking uniform, and I'm like.
Well, you know why I think that? Okay, first of all, two things. Number one, then even more reason why that side of town needs you because of that feeling. I totally know what you mean.
Am I right or am I wrong?
You're totally right.
Okay,
totally right. But you kind of have that vibe a little bit, and then on top of that, because of your interest in like healthy living and healthy lifestyle and like I feel like people migrate over there when it's that way, and it just for no particular reason, it just is, and so that's why I thought that I would take you for someone who lives there, but maybe not so like depends like where in Santa Monica, like how deep in Santa Monica you're going. Are you going to the Venice area, or are you staying more like?
Here's the thing, I've lived in LA for on and off for like 15 years. I've never wanted to move to the west side for that reason. It's just, it hasn't, I come from a cosmopolitan place. West Hollywood to me feels like it's at the hub of the pop culture, whatever. The reason why I'm moving there now is because I just feel like I welcome the change and I want to like grow and see what it has to offer. And I found a really nice place. It's going to give me space, and I feel like it's going to inspire me to be even more creative and I dig that. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I don't know how I'm going to feel. I love West Hollywood. I love the kind of like hustle vibe.
Bustle, yeah. I totally agree.
Hustle of West Hollywood. But yeah, I don't know. Well, who knows?
Well, you'll let me know. When you move there, by the way?
Technically next week, but I'm going to be out of town, so the week after. But I have the place, like, to take over the lease next week.
Oh, you can? Okay. Yeah. So what are you working, besides your book that, of course, just came out, what else are you doing? Like, what else do you spend your time with, besides, of course, exercise and doing some saunas and some other types of, what else do you do? You do cold water immersions. Immersions, you talk about that a lot.
I like to work on my podcast. I like to play music. I like to like practice my guitar playing and my singing, which I love to do.
Who's your favorite guest on your podcast so far?
That's a really good question. I've had a few really good guests. I love doing my podcast, which I never thought that I would
like it as much.
Yeah, but I love it. I really do love it. It's super fun. When I first started, I didn't think that I would be any good as a podcast host, and now I just Who have I loved? Man, I had Dr. Mark Hyman on it recently, who was great.
Oh, he's coming on my podcast.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
I love him. He's also so knowledgeable.
He's so knowledgeable. Yeah. He's good. I had so with my podcast, it's not just, I don't like to like just stay in the lane of health, and if people are only following me because they have certain expectations, then they're going to be disappointed, because like I like to have on people who interest me, and they could be in the health and wellness vertical, they could be foodies, they could be my favorite musicians, they could be whoever. I mean, I always try to bring the conversation back to some way that, something actionable that listeners can use to improve their lives in some way. But some of my favorite episodes, I had a guy on he's just a world-renowned expert in extra virgin olive oil. So we just go deep on that, which is an amazing thing to get to talk about for an hour,
What did he say? Anything that, like, what was the main, the crux of the...
Well, all the little nuances, like all the little nuances. Color has no bearing on the quality of the oil. No.
How about cold press versus...
I think probably cold press is good. I don't remember the specifics, but yeah, I mean, cold press is good. You don't want it hot pressed, but really the most important thing is that the bottle has a harvest date, and that extra virgin olive oil, unlike wine, so wine has appreciative potential, right? Wine can age and it can get better with time. Extra virgin olive oil only gets worse. So it's a fresh fruit juice.
Interesting.
Olive is a fruit. And you want to make sure that the harvest date was relatively recent. You want it to be as fresh as possible.
I didn't know that. Thank you.
You want your olive oil fresh, and that you shouldn't buy the cheapest olive oil you could find. You should buy something that's going to be, spend what you're comfortable spending on it, but don't buy the cheapest one. Buy like either the middle of the shelf or top shelf. Also single cultivar, like, you don't want to blend, although sometimes I buy blends, but, and you also want to buy the smallest bottle that you can find that you're going to use quickly. So if you're using a ton of olive oil all the time, then you can buy a bigger bottle.
Right.
But like I said, it only is going to get worse over time, and being open, the oxygen is going to catalyze how bad. So you want to just like buy it and use it quickly. Buy fresh, use it quickly. Buy fresh, use it quickly.
Yeah, that's good to know. That's a good tip.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me some other people you've had that are like really great ones.
Well, I've done a lot of episodes on women's health, which I think is really cool. Just the mysteries and the wonders of the female body. I think
just because you're curious yourself.
Yeah, I'm curious, and I don't know. Like, I think it's super interesting. We've talked all about birth control. We've talked about menstrual cycles, things like that. I think it's super fun.
Yeah, good. I'm glad.
Yeah. What else?
Name someone that came on that was like Mark Hyman, great. That's in the health. The guy that did the olive oil. Name someone outside your lane that you had on that you really loved.
Outside my lane. Let me see if I can think of somebody where. Yeah, man, hard to say. I don't know. Well, my friend Paul Saladino, I've had on my show twice. He's a carnivore physician. He only eats meat.
You mean only as in terms of that's the only thing he actually eats, or he's just someone who's not a vegetarian?
No, he only eats beef. No plants, no plant matter. Won't even put pepper on his steak.
So he only eats meat all day?
All day. That's all he eats. Literally all he eats. Doesn't drink coffee because coffee comes from a plant. He's a carnivore. He's not an omnivore. He only eats meat. This is a growing trend. And he's a medical doctor. He's a very, very smart guy. I learn something new from him all the time, but I just don't agree with him in the fact, in this
what does he say? What does he say?
Well, he's way more nuanced than I'll, be able to do justice, but basically that plants have these toxic compounds that they create to ward off predators. And for a significant portion of the population, these compounds actually can be problematic if you suffer from an autoimmune condition or an inflammatory condition, that they can actually they can exacerbate those conditions.
And he's a doctor.
He's a medical doctor.
And does he have, are all his blood, is everything intact with him?
He looks great. He's ripped and he's great. I mean, he's a walking testament, but who knows? I mean, he's been on this diet for 2-3 years. Who knows if he sticks with it? Mm-hmm. It's a very hard diet to adhere to. Who knows what 10 years is going to bring if he keeps on the diet. You never know. And so you're like an omnivore, I would imagine. I'm an omnivore, yeah. I think it's good to eat plants. I think it's good to eat animals. I think it's good to eat, both of those things. I do agree with him that, if you had to compare a 100% carnivore-based diet to a 100% animal-based diet to a 100% plant-based diet, I think that the animal-based diet probably has an upper hand. Mm-hmm. I think animal foods are just great. I think that they're super nutritious. But I also think like berries and dark leafy greens and things like that, cruciferous vegetables, all are super healthy as well. So,
what do you think of like the whole thing about like the Impossible burgers and all as a healthy trend? To me, that's not healthy.
Total crap. Yeah.
It's all sodium and filled with fillers.
It's filler, ultra processed garbage. Right. Basically, yeah.
And people are saying to eat that versus having like a piece of protein.
Definitely not. Yeah. I mean, I actually, and you'll talk about this with Mark Hyman because that's the focus of his new book, is that these, to produce a Beyond Burger or an Impossible Burger, I mean, it's adding, the confluence of all the different production processes and the packaging and whatever to create one of those burgers. It's throwing a lot of carbon into the atmosphere, whereas a grass-fed burger actually is carbon negative. There's obviously the shipping that has to come into play, but all the water that it takes to grow a grass-fed cow is what's called green water. Right. So it's from literally rain. It's not irrigation. You need a lot of irrigation to feed to grow the grains and all the crap that they feed to these industrially, factory farmed cows. But the statement that like eating meat is implicitly bad for the environment is just total BS propaganda. I mean, and you hear it all the time in Hollywood.
Have you seen Game Changers?
Yeah, it's just crap.
It's a total biased movie that for every one athlete, they're like, oh, this athlete's vegan and they're the strongest person in the world. Whatever. Yeah. I can name 100,000 people who are not. It's the same, who eat meat. Yeah. It was totally, and I would imagine, given that how you
1,000%. Yeah, me and Mind Pump Sal, we did a great episode debating tearing down Game Changers, and it's a problem, man, because like now diets are becoming politicized. Mm-hmm. That's something that Sal could speak very, very eloquently to, but yeah, I mean, you see it all the time in Hollywood with like the people who are like environmentalists and they're like super they politicize like meat eating, and they take these uber simplified world views like meat is all bad, eat less meat.
I know. I agree.
And it's just, it really doesn't make any sense when you look at the science and when you consider the complexity of the food system. Like the food system is just so complicated. And, even me, like I'm a freaking, armchair expert. I don't know, half of what it entails to grow food and produce food and ship food and to store food today. I mean, I know more than I think your average person, but it's just, it's infinitely more complex than Karen, on Facebook has any concept of when she like gets into the comments section is like, want to save the environment, eat less meat.
Of course, and I agree. And
Karen doesn't know shit.
No. And there's a lot of Karens out there, unfortunately.
A lot of Karens, yeah.
There's a ton of Karens. Well, is there anything else that we should talk about? I feel like I've kept you on this treadmill for a very long time, over an hour.
It's good. I like it. I'm getting my meat in for the day.
Exactly. That's right. Are you going to go do weights after this, or this is basically?
No, I think I'm good. I think I'm going to need another shower.
Well, actually, you're not even sweating.
But that's okay.
You actually don't even look like you're like even. You
no, this is
like
good.
Break a sweat.
No, I really enjoy this because I think one of the problems with LA is that you're not always as active as you need to be, and
is that the irony of it though?
It's the irony, yeah. It's the irony. You're just always in your car. But that's one of the things I'm looking forward to about the West Side, because in West Hollywood, where I live, walking around, you feel like people are looking at you, like.
Really?
Yeah, because it's like it's not really. It's kind of seedy, like
it depends on where you are, but I totally agree. I find it so ironic, right? Because people think LA, California is such a healthy place, and yet I've never been so sedentary as I am when I'm here. When I'm in New York, I walk everywhere. Yeah. Like I'm constantly on the go and moving. And that's why actually I live right where I live, because it's off of Main Vessel. So I can walk places, I can get places, I can like walk to a bank, I can walk to restaurants, I can walk to the mall, versus being in a very like enclosed area where you can never get anywhere. It's like because LA is terrible like that.
Yeah.
So I agree. The Genius Life. Heal the mind, strengthen your body, and become extraordinary. Max Lugavere. This is great. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
This has been very fun, and I can't wait to have you on again if you ever come on again for your third book.
Yeah, well, thank you. Hopefully there's a third book.
I hope of course there'll be a third book. Come on.
I hope so.
Come on. Why would there not be? With that with that wealth of knowledge.
Oh man, you're too kind.
Oh no. So where do people find you if they don't know already?
You can find me on Instagram at Max Lugavere, Lugavere. My podcast is called The Genius Life, so come over, hit subscribe, and pick up my new book, The Genius Life. Available
it's good.
Barnes & Noble, Amazon. You can go to geniuslifebook.com. It's available everywhere.
Well, thank you so much. And quickly, press that white button. How many calories did you burn?
Oh, damn, 205.
Okay, well, 205 you didn't do before, so that's good.
I love that. Yeah, thanks for letting me burn those calories.
Absolutely. Thank you. Bye.
Ciao.
Habits and hustle, time to get it rolling. Stay up on the grind, don't stop, keep it going. Habits and hustle, from nothing into something. All out, hosted by Jennifer Cohen. Visionaries, tune in, you can get to know them. Be inspired, this is your moment. Excuses, we ain't having that. The Habits and Hustle podcast, powered by Habit Nest.